Wait, hold on. Going live. Okay, live.
We gathered and entangled, feeling and witnessing, healing and evolving, we gather and entangle. We arrive and center to world together in deep presence. We suspend our self-coercion under dominating structures of time, of category and class. We speak to the world in confidence, in trust. We speak to co-create with the music of the universe that we meet halfway. We are invoked.
Here we are. All right, so people who are tuning in now, we were offline doing check-ins, highs and lows, and life lessons. And now we're on to updates and announcements. There's only I just did the consent vote thing for Splash. And there's like I put tiny health test results, but I also wondering if like maybe we can just do the consent vote and do the diffraction thing for time. Is that okay with everyone? Okay. And then maybe we'll have like a dedicated time to do more tiny health updates or test results. Okay, Splash, you're on.
Yeah, so once I got back into this abundant mindset, I realized what I need to do next on the my ripple tank, which is to be able to drop drops at in a controlled way. Um, and I had been like I've been eyeing this I remember I talked about the water drop photography uh people. This is like a 3 drop unit with a little controller that you can configure to, and I'm, you know, like basically like the particularly this Shaco solenoid thing is like very hard to find on its own, and like getting all of these other pieces together is a is really fiddly, and so this would be a super convenient way to just be able to start making drops. I have ideas about spinning them around and having them sort of be on a rotary thing and coming out in different patterns. But in order to start playing with that, I need this unit, which costs $410 that I would really rather not spend out of my um, personal scarcity. So I was proposing that it be part of the TFT project.
Does it would this when you say it's part of the TFT project, would it be like would it be part of like I don't know, like a show, like when we do the show or some kind of TFT? Oh, I see what you're saying. Part of like the materials, like thinking
Yeah.
about like I see. Yeah. Okay. That makes
And so yeah,
sense.
I do think it would if it if it becomes projectable, then I definitely want it to be in a show space if it works out. And I also know that I can make video things from it. So like either of those, both of those are things I have in mind.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think some like questions that like came up in the past when we've done like these like proposals is about like which I think is like I don't know. It's like it gets complicated in terms of like where like I mean it's not like I think the TFT now that we're talking about this way before, but like in Rev School, like in terms of like the distinction between like someone like your personal project and then like it being part of like Rev School or something. There's like that that kind yeah, I don't know if that like yeah. Sometimes those kind of if that makes sense. I don't know how feel about that though. I mean, there's also like different people who feel a different way about it, you know. Um,
Mhm.
and like that's something. And then also, sometimes I like wonder about like time, you know, like time, like because like no one gets paid to be here or something. Nor do I necessarily want like the ties of participation with TFT or Rev School to be part of like to be tied with like some kind of monetary compensation. And we've had conversations about that too. We're
Mm.
certain, and again, people feel different ways. This is just like things that I think about. And so sometimes I wonder about that. Like that makes sense. Like these kind of like if like there's like how can I put this feelings of uh like not getting compensated or something. I don't know. Is it or wanting to, does that make sense? I don't know why I'm having
I can tell you that there are thoughts. I can't tell what is
what they
the
are.
character of the thoughts.
Yeah, I know, because money is so weird to talk about. But like, okay, these are the things I'm thinking about. Okay, so one is like, yeah, like the project, like like in terms of I don't even know how to it's hard because I don't want to use these words and I think like when getting into like money things it like gets scripted this way in terms of like who owns what project or something, you know? And I don't
Mm.
think like Rev School wants to operate that way, but then there also have been like, you know, like, oh, where's the line where it's like you know, where it's like your project or Rev School's project or something, you know? But I'm I'm not like I don't want to like move towards that. I think that's why I'm having a hard time. But just like these are things that I think about sometimes, you know. And then the other thing is like the other thing that I was trying to say is like because like conversations have come up about like people suggesting getting paid, you know, a certain for like consulting or like da 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 da, you know, and I know that we all do a lot of work for this. So then sometimes I get concerned about that, you know, and then like um, that feeling getting then imported into like getting like getting equipment or something for some project. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And that is maybe is not is it a little bit clearer?
Um,
But I don't know if I'm really asking it.
yeah, okay, I think it comes down to like I think I think I'm hearing a like a broad scope question of like what I think the question I'm not hearing the thing I'm not hearing is like people feel this way and you and Tangler think that they should that they shouldn't think that way or like because I think the ownership you know part of why I thought of it for this was that like it was a recurring agenda item for so long and it felt like it was sort of coming through TFT and even as I was sort of like you know working on it like it was just sharing progress um and like and it was and even it was like the presence on the agenda that made me like recognize it as something that I was drifting away from that sort of like that I was blocked on um
We were blocked on wait, seeing it on the agenda. Um
you know I had to ask to have the ripple tank removed from the agenda because I wasn't making progress on it
oh, I
um
see that right, okay, okay. That's how you meant like
uh
this
yeah
part on the agenda.
oh yeah you're right
Yeah. I think okay, I think I can clarify a little bit more if you want to hear, but I can also
yeah
hear what you
no,
have to
go no
say.
you
Yeah.
go for it
I think what I'm saying is that I felt like in the past people were like denied money for projects
okay
or something, you know, like or something that or not denied, but like there was a lot of discussion around it or something, you know. I
Hmm.
mean, I don't know, like I'm trying to think of a specific thing or instance. And so like I get worried about that, you know, like oh no, are people going to be like, why? You know, so that's part of
What
it
is it
also.
again?
Like,
Hmm.
but also like I think like also like like definitely I have like yes, you know, like I have no bodily no for this, you know, request. It's just like this is stuff that, you know, comes up with like these are things that I think about or something, or like worry about sometimes. Um, that's all. Even though I couldn't articulate it very well, so sorry, because I'm like uncomfortable or something. Because money is like so weird.
And I feel I have that same I have like similar feelings of like, well, if what yeah, what is the fairness of it? What what are we not able to do as a like collectively because like if we spend this money on this, um and yeah, and even like what does it take for me to feel empowered to ask, and like
Yes,
who doesn't feel empowered to ask?
yes, yeah. That was a big discussion too. Lamb chips, you have something?
Yeah, I have a splash. Is there were you working towards something more too?
No, I'm
I don't want to interrupt it.
yeah.
That in we can find clarity in what doesn't feel like a no to us with this, and that can be a good contribution to if there are like broader things that need to be attended to within Rev School and how Rev School says yes or no to projects that people are working on. But that like I know that for me, what makes my consent vote for this pretty clear is like imagining all the ways that Ripple Tank um contributes to
Mm,
our visualizations of diffraction and our visualizations of like Thinky Feely Tank and also whatever else it can do too. But that specific element is like what I notice my imagination or my understanding. That's what it latches on to. That like brings a lot of clarity to me.
mm,
Um, and just that if by knowing what mm, lets this land in a yes vote for us, then that can be some clarifying information for the maybe more muddily, and I don't know if not scary is the word, but whatever y'all are articulating around how these votes have happened in Rev School in the past. Like just getting some reassurance of the possibility of that conversation by knowing that like there's some clarity that we have by engaging with this possibility of the purchase of these droppers.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. I also, for me, also like the framing of it within TFT, I think is also like helpful because there is like supposed to be a budget for, like buying materials for like the teams and like or individuals who are making something. So that totally, yeah, that's something that totally makes sense and seems like, yeah.
One other
Because
thing, just to in case this is any help, like me noticing from not being the two of you talking to each other about this is the difficulty of representing other people's interests. Like the Entangler, I see you in this position. I see you being positioned in a way of like trying to represent other people's or other stuff than what's present and what's with you now. And that's one of the things that I think is the relief of the structure of the consent vote is like if there needs to be another consent vote with other people involved or in a different group or in the Rev School, then like there isn't the particular sensation of like the dissonance between an idea and what you're feeling.
oh my God, yes. Thank you for
mhm,
saying that because I think that's what because like we had so many discussions around this. Like we had like there's a whole folder of all the money danger rooms and budget reconciliation. And we went through and talked a lot about labor and like people's feelings around participation with Rev School and like, oh yeah, thanks for the starting the AI companion. Um, And then like, yeah, like it was like really, I mean, it was like one of my favorite parts about rev school, but it was like also like really intense and hard and like a lot of feelings and like traumas and like da, 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 da. I mean, it wasn't that bad. I'm making it sound dramatic. It wasn't like, but so I think that, yeah, I think that's the thing. Thank you. Like that I was feeling uncomfortable about because also like my scripting of it is not like it's very for me and there's so much more than what I just said. And I think that's what I felt was missing, like
Mhm.
because like because you all didn't experience that like it feels like there's a big part that's like missing or something in this
Yeah.
process. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's all. Yeah. So thank you for helping me get to that place. And that's all. And then it also made me kind of like get to the point of like, oh yeah, like I trusting the process too, Like maybe it's like, like trusting like what's happening here, that we do it here. And then it is gonna go to like the, rev school into the larger group and then trusting if someone had a bodily node, they would say so or something, you know? Um, yeah, I'll thank you for that.
Uh, Not that I forgot to, I also have been meaning to mention, uh, I was concerned about having headphones at the radio studio, and the Sam Ash around the corner from me is shutting down, so I got two pairs of pretty cheap headphones to donate to Keichung.
Oh, oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, they desperately need some headphones.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That headphone outlet thing has four outputs, so we can have four people on headphones next Sunday.
Oh yeah, because we're supposed to do the music.
Yeah.
Saffron and what's David?
David?
Yeah, but then Sarah's like, use this other name. I think
Oh,
it's like
okay.
David. So, yeah. Anyway, are gonna do some live music hopefully.
Yeah.
Forgot about that. So yeah, it'd be good to have some headphones. Cool. So there's like kind of like a formal way that we do consent votes, but like nine usually does it. And so they're not here. So we're like doing it kind of informally. But there's like this whole process of like you do like, the person presents and then we have a kind of like a discussion, like if anyone has like questions, and then we do a round of like, does anyone have any bodily nose or something? And then there's supposed to be like two rounds of that. But we can just do one round. Or like, yeah, or just say like, does anyone have a bodily no to Splash's proposal?
I have a simple question. Would you consider live streaming some of your process
Hmm.
working with the Ripple Tank to the YouTube channel for those of us who'd like to feel that we have insight into what you're doing beyond
Yeah,
the the little reports and updates we get here?
yeah, I like that a lot. I could do that.
It's so cool sometimes to, I don't know, like witness process. I don't know. I don't know. It could be unbearable. You could be
Right.
just
Yeah.
piddling around for 5 hours. I might not, but maybe there's some good stuff, and maybe you're talking out loud here and there. Maybe some of it gets edited together into like a spot that you could
Mm.
play on the radio show, you know,
Oh yeah.
um, one night. It's just an opportunity, like getting the equipment is one thing, but you actually exercising with it is an opportunity for a lot more generative material
Yeah.
to,
Yeah, that sounds fun and interesting. And there's like all kinds of people on Twitch and YouTube live streaming all kinds of very boring stuff. So
yeah.
feel fine about contributing to that.
It's so cute if it's ever something Splash that you find yourself doing, then maybe it'll mean I get a little notification on my phone that's like Thinky Philly Tank is live streaming now, and I click on it and it's just like screwing in
Ripples.
little things. That's just really sweet to imagine.
Mhm.
I love that. Cool. Okay, so no Bali, no. So then I'll do this is the second step, send it to the group, and then we'll probably, since we're having rev school next week, we can probably confirm it there too. And Lee is supposed to come too, so um for grant writing.
Oh, right. Yeah, great.
So the other question I have for you, Spice, one thing is like setting up okay, so the way that we're use Open Collective, and
Mhm.
like I think I mentioned it to all three of you, and I'm gonna add all three of you to Open Collective. Um, and it usually works like through like a reimbursement. So like we gotta like buy it and then get
Mhm.
reimbursed.
Yeah.
Is that something that you could do? Yeah.
Yes, this week I
Okay,
can.
cool. Okay, cool. Because that's like one issue that I wanted to bring up in Rev School is like because I'm like had to like I don't know. I'm still haven't ordered Saffron's thing, and I like no wait to get paid, but then I'm also lagging on it, but I'm also like don't always want to be the person who does that. So
Mhm.
if it's possible. Cool.
Saffron's gut test.
Yeah, I need to get it. I still haven't got it. So like stuff like that. Like and then like paying people, trying to this is something more for Rev School, but
Mhm.
wanting to like distribute that duty. Okay, yay!
Yay. Thanks.
Thanks for awkward conversation and holding space for my awkwardness and discomfort, um, and helping me process through it.
Shall we diffract?
Yeah. Lamb shift your own.
I was typing up a message in Tangler about Open Collective, and just to say if it whatever barrier there's been, but with bringing that up in Red School or coming to a resolution about it, I'm gonna text you and see if there's any. I don't know. I'm gonna text you about it. That's
Okay.
I'm not meaning to be vague. I'm just realizing that I can't say anything quickly or in under 10 minutes today, apparently. Okay, let's diffract. um, I'm gonna share my screen. Um, let me make it a little bit, let me make the screen a little bit like friendlier on our eyes first, so that we're not entering into a scary place of lots of text. Um, I've kind of enjoyed having starting each of these with readings from Brad, and they've ended up just being the same. But if it's cool with y'all, let's just reread some of these Brad quotes on diffraction, popcorn style. And
Ooh.
whoever is interested in starting and reading however many you want, and then popcorn over to someone else when you want to not read anymore.
I would read, but I put chocolate in my mouth.
I'll say, simply stated, diffraction has to do with the way waves combine when they overlap and the apparent bending and spreading of waves that occurs when waves encounter an obstruction. Popcorn Entangler?
Mm-hmm. The apparatuses must be tuned to the particularities of the entanglements at hand. The key question in each case is this: how to responsibly explore entanglements and the differences they make. Broad 73. Oh, Gossamer, you want to read?
Sure. The analogy is between geometrical optics and classical Newtonian mechanics on the one hand, and physical optics and quantum mechanics on the other. The crux of the analogy is this. When in the case of a particular experiment, the wave nature of light or matter is not significant, it may be possible to use classical mechanics, geometrical optics, as a shortcut to the more rigorous analysis that quantum mechanics or physical optics provides. A splash.
What I'm interested in doing is building diffraction apparatuses in order to study the entangled effects that differences make.
Cool. So today our focus is on what differences do. Up until today, we've been putting a lot of focus on what our different descriptions do. As we can see in, oh, I gotta move this thing. We've been focusing a lot on what our different descriptions did that we brought here. And today is going to be thinking about and talking about and feeling through what the differences in this apparatus do. And so just to recap a bit briefly, we have these two little dot nuggets from times that we really attended to the marks on our bodies, i.e. the feeling like kind of feeling check-ins that we had in our discussion. And then as we talked, we noted some ways that this conversation zooms out a bit on these pink sticky notes. I'm going to go to the next slide and we can come back here too, if we want to. First, I want to check in, Gossamer, if you want, do you have thoughts on this, on a definition around of Thinky Feely Tank as a fulcrum which life and death can hover?
Sorry, I just laughed out loud. I don't think I can do any better than that.
It's awesome. We're gonna even then take off the ellipses and they're gonna hang out and be our friend as they are.
Okay.
So I want to mention two ideas that came to my mind last time when we were talking, as a way of framing how we can think about difference and the effect of difference. So I remember last week in our discussion, the differences between our definitions. One of the things that I noticed the differences doing is the differences attending to accessibility or inaccessibility, like notions of and definitions of accessibility and inaccessibility. And another thing that I noticed the differences doing is I noticed the differences clarifying the forms and goals of Thinky Feely Tank. And so those are one thing we're going to learn today is how to discuss what differences do, and like in what ways we let those discussions just kind of float, and in what ways those discussions come into concrete things. But throughout this whole process, my disposition has been trusting that we get clarity on our understanding of TFT, and we get clarity on how we want to describe what TFT is on our website. Gossamer, are you raising your hand?
Could you repeat those two things?
Yeah. One of them is that the differences amongst these definitions attended to accessibility or inaccessibility. And the differences amongst these definitions of TFT also clarified the forms and goals of Thinky Feely Tank.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe both of those, rather than the differences doing those, is the differences lead us to do those. Like it's because of the differences between those descriptions that kind of points to us needing to attend to the specificities of what the forms and goals of TFT are, and what are, I don't know, ideals or what we hold as important in regard to the accessibility or inaccessibility when it comes to TFT and how we talk about ourselves.
Those are good. I agree.
Let me see here.
Mhm.
I'm curious if zoom out.
Can I'm not prepared to totally expound upon this, but there's something about the word form and goal, the words form and goal
Yeah,
that I feel like we could mine for better words. Like I totally understand what you're saying,
yeah.
but you're always good at being provocative to me. So I I think I'm recalling, I will have to look this up, but I'm recalling like a debate or discussion about form and on form that may be related to Foucault and Derrida. I don't have my facts straight in my head. But I think we're not really to pursue a goal and to be formal seems at odds with diffraction, and that the what arises from diffraction is not a form or formal, but it would probably fall into this category of non-form or on form. So I guess I'd like to make a mental note to search into that and see if I can find more specific terminology that replaces the word goals and form for this project.
And I wonder, I mean, it sounds to me like it's beyond just those not being those as the words that they are, but even the spirit of that question in that sentence of what the forms and goals of TFT are. Gossamer, in what you said, I hear like a bit of an argument against like even trying to define that or answer that question. That like that's maybe not the question that we want to that we want to that we want to be shaping our decisions around how we talk about TFT.
I don't have a better question at hand,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Lamshift. So I
yeah.
feel like it's a great place to start.
And I think
Um,
yeah, I'm sorry.
but you're right. Maybe there is a better question out there, and maybe we'll discover it.
I mean, this conversation is already helping because I agree with you, Gossamer, and I think it's like because I'm thinking like, oh yeah, a goal is like a cause and effect type of thing, which is like very like classical physics, in terms of
Mhm.
a like some kind of like simultaneity or like an emergence or simultaneity or something. Like because like a goal is like a I mean, goal, like we can script that way, like we can script it as a goal, but it's like a different kind of worldview, right? And then also the thing you said about form was really interesting because then I was like, okay, if it's not form, what is it? And then I was like, oh, it's relationships. We're making
Mm.
relationships or we're doing an entanglement, like we're doing making boundary making practices, basically, right? Or something like as Barag would say, like, like forming a certain relationship within the TFT. And like that relationship is like it is the thing as opposed to the form or something. I know that's what
Yeah.
I started thinking about when you were talking, and I was like, and then I was like, oh damn, like this is exactly what Lampshade is talking about the differences. Like you came in with a difference, and then that difference, like co-produce or something, these other, yeah, 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 yeah. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's what we're doing here. I think it's great.
Right on,
Yeah.
Entangle.
So maybe it's like about like what, like what relationships are we forming? Like how are we making relationships? And then like what uh
Like we're much more relational than formal.
yeah,
Relational as in relational aesthetics, right?
sure, yeah, it could be like that. It could be racial relational aesthetics or other kind of like uh worldviews ranging from, I don't know, like quantum physics to some indigenous or like kind of pre-colonial type of worldviews where it's like not so like it's more like reciprocity, or like with quantum physics it's more like I don't know, I call it a simultaneity, but I don't know if that's really like the right word. um which isn't to say that like we can't produce forms, outputs
Mm-hmm,
like as an apparatus, like we will be producing forms sometimes,
mm-hmm,
and then also there is some kind of something, maybe it's like a desire, I mean, I would love it to be driven by desire, because then we can bring in like Audre Lorde, we can bring in like
Mm.
like Natalie Lovelace and talking about love and stuff like that. So maybe it's like about like what kind of relationships are we forming, and like how do we desire or something like um
I just wanted to make a note that you said that because I think that's a strong statement. I would love for it to be driven by desire. That's one of the most feely things I've ever heard you say.
it's funny. I think I like appear to be like androidal. Actually, I never used that word before. I like it. Androidal, like Android. Um, but I am actually very desirous. Like everything I do is like driven by like kind of like intense desire. Maybe love. I don't know. Sorry, Splash, you're gonna say something.
Uh, I like desire the most. I had thought about um purpose as opposed to goal, but I think desire is the most feely option. And for forms, I was also thinking about observable phenomena, um, where like I think just for encapsulating any kind of in-person thing we might do for encapsulating the observability of our live streams. Um,
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
I guess
Mm-hmm.
manifestations would be another way to think about it, but I think something in that realm.
I like the observable because it is like something about legible or something, like making it like
Mm,
observable or like documentable or something, or like has like an image, like producing some kind of media or something.
mhm. Yeah, right.
Um, you guys, I what I was referring to when I said form and on form, um, is a concept from Georges Bataille, and on form roughly translates to formlessness. And I can't, I read this article like, 17 years ago. So I'll have to see if I can find the actual article. But that's what I was referencing. It wasn't Foucault, it was Georges Bataille and his notion of formless or the on form. So he wrote, a philosophical oppositional piece about formlessness in the face of, a world where things are primarily defined by formalism. Um, That's
Do you
all I
have
have right now.
do you have a clear understanding or way of explaining what formalism is?
That's a good question. First thing that comes to mind is guided by systems or rules in order
Right.
to be generative.
I'm looking it up right now. In philosophy, this is according to Wikipedia, the term formalism describes an emphasis on form over content or meaning in the arts, literature, and philosophy. That's what I
Could you,
thought it was. So it's like an emphasis, like form over content. So like I think about it in terms of like art stuff, in terms of like when people are like formal, they're like it's about like the line or the color or the texture, it's like self-referential and not necessarily like connected to anything social or something. Um,
you can have self-referential systems that are, yeah, defined by rules that only work within itself. That's one type of form.
yes, yeah. And it's only yes, yeah. Hmm.
Thank you. When desire was mentioned, and also making relationships, and also the observable phenomena that like how us coming together into a thinky feely tank is observable phenomena. That plants that makes me, I imagine, like Gossamer, your I don't know if this was in your check-in or afterwards, but I really connected with something you said, and it made me think about the times where it's really hard to come into thinky feely tank, like hard to trust that like I'll be able to engage in thinky feely tank or engage with a conversation or something like that. Or hard to trust that like I'll have the attention or the energy. And that the way I currently think of thinky feely tank is that this is um is that like I have a there's kind of a implicit agreement that I come every other week to contribute to what we are forming, and that um I'm comfortable with that, and I like that. And it would be different if every time I choose to engage in thinky feely tank, it's because I feel myself desiring what we desire as thinky feely tank. That if we describe what is thinky feely tank as what thinky feely tank is desiring, and what desires we are engaging with thinky feely tank in pursuit of, or like what desires we are, thinky feely tank, the structure, the thinky feely tank becomes something like kind of like wiggly and neat, and I think maybe kind of true to us, and it's a little bit of a shift in my mindset. um that is like, if we if our description of what is thinky feely tank is about what we desire, then whenever I'm desiring that, I'm engaging in thinky feely tank. And whenever I'm not desiring that, I'm not going to engage in thinky feely tank, rather than me engaging in thinky feely tank because it's what I do, because I do it every other week, and because it's like a project, and like people that I enjoy talking to and working on this thing with. Um, this kind of instead like makes the focus instead on checking in with the desire of what we agree or what we decide is the desire of thinky feely tank, and it's a desire that I don't have to carry all the time, but sometimes I probably will. And I don't know, that's intriguing to me. And it feels it feels true to like I don't know, it's intriguing, and I wonder if that's something that um that's appealing to y'all too, like the consequence and the effect. Um, I forget what Baradian terms to use here, but like the different what difference it makes for Thinky Feely Tank to be defined by a by what we are desiring when we Thinky Feely Tank, when we come together in Thinky Feely Tank.
I'm wondering if it's making me think of two things. But I get what you're saying about like it feels like it's like saying there's a desire is a requirement or something to participate or like because I'm thinking about a friend of mine who like does says that they don't have desire. So I'm like, oh yeah, how does someone who doesn't have desire participate or something in something that's like defined through desire? Um and I was like wondering if it's because I was specifically thinking about like something to replace the goal. So then it's more like how we make decisions or like what is like the drive of the, I don't know. I maybe okay. I guess I'm wondering if like I guess I hear what you're saying. Okay, maybe I'm gonna shift gears. Okay, I do because I'm also thinking about like maybe it's about like I don't know, maybe there's other words we can include by that, but I do like the like how Gossamer was saying like the feely aspect of it. And I am also like highly influenced right now by like the kink class and thinking about desire and like erotics and like um as like Audre Lorde kind of talks about erotics as like our unrecognized and unacknowledged feelings, and the power of that. Um and so like that, so I'm like, there's a part of me that's like, like I want that to be part of it. But then when I sit listening to you talking, I was like, oh, like one thing that I think it's like maybe this is like totally different from what we're talking about. Maybe I'm pulling it somewhere, but I was also thinking about like the part in the Red School bio in which we talk about like, attending to how we're creating subjects and objects, like how we're worlding, like, and that's at least for me a big part of like the relational aspect. And then like, like what we do here is like attending to, and then the forms, like the outputs or whatever, or like the different entanglements, like we have the power or like being attentive to how we're always like creating subjects and objects, and maybe like moving away from that and then creating like worlding, right? Worlding something. I don't know how to say that in a way that doesn't sound jargony, but within that, I'm wondering like to bring back the desire, right? The desire is like, what is it like I don't know. Actually, now I'm curious to hear other people what they think about desire. First, it's interesting because I like also like am like a little bit stumped by and then I was also thinking about like how, what Gossamer said about like that you're the provocativeness, your provocativeness. um,
Um, I think, well, so one thing that another thing Lamb Shift inspired me to to think of while he was speaking was what if we had a check-in where instead of stating a life lesson, we stated some deep desire that was within us as we arrived. Maybe not every time, but maybe it's something we could try one day. Like
I love that.
sharing
too.
because desire did bring me here today. And I have despite my anxiety, or because I desire so deeply to connect with people and to be stimulated outside of the sandwich shop, I desire that so strongly. I overcame my clinical anxiety to show up at some level. Um, yeah. Well, anyways, thank you for helping me understand and articulate that. But so that would be me stating a desire I have right now, my underlying desire.
Thank you.
But maybe Entangler, I missed part of Entangler's check-in. And perhaps if I had heard it all, I would have some insight into their desires. I don't want to say too much about what I know about um, Entangler's field of interest right now, because maybe it's like some of it's personal,
It's okay. You can say
right?
it. That's it. Yeah.
Because
I
it was your
mean,
check-in.
yeah. Wait,
So
and
it's
you missed.
the sexual nature of it. Um,
Mm-mm. Yeah, you can say whatever in regards to me. But I appreciate it. You know, Gossamer, when you're talking, do you think like because like also part of also thinking about that same friend who, does is not driven by desire, but is like driven by commitment, like once they commit, they change. Like literally, it's like kind of remarkable. Like is there, if they commit to a person or something, it changes them. So I'm like, is that like so I'm like yeah, so I love the desire thing, but I also want to make space as like Lamb Shift like opened up for people who don't like experience the world that
have
way, I guess.
that.
Yeah.
Some people, yeah, operate according to rules and are very perfunctory. And what would you call that?
I mean, I would argue that there's still desire in there. And I'm there's like, I'm
Yeah.
wanting to like center desire or like bring that forth because of the feeliness of the thinky, and like a lot and like I think Gossamer, you brought this up last time that like a lot of the we mention like, somatics or feelings, but it doesn't feel feely, like there's no like it doesn't feel like there's stakes or something in the feely. So like
Hmm.
putting desire in there feels like there's a stake, like we're like really, you know, yeah.
Sometimes living in a constant state of desire can be very fatiguing too and
Oh,
have
yeah.
consequences. So, it could be a relief to like release desire sometimes and just function. Um, I guess it's back to that fulcrum, like Splash may be working on producing a formal gallery installation, right? But that doesn't mean I think of Splash as a formal creator, right?
Hmm.
And there'll be days when some of us here supply the form and some of us supply the on form, maybe. I don't know. Which is, I think, something Lambshift touched on. Didn't you say something about bringing, being, having to be the one to bring the desire? to these meetings.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I'm intrigued by these concepts, like concepts of desire and commitment. Maybe these concepts being dualities, but I don't want to, I feel myself getting a little bit, my mind wandering into philosophizing about those and philosophizing about them in the context of thinky feely tank and how we do thinky feely tank and how we define thinky feely tank. Form and on form, another one. I need a breath to come back into facilitating.
Hmm.
Sorry, Lamb Shift, if I derailed you. I feel like that was a diffractive conversation, though.
Yeah, I think in this, throughout these weeks, the conversations that we have that go on go on go on their paths that weren't planned at all are really valuable, are really worthwhile, or just mean a lot. They're meaningful. I'm gonna ask the question again. What the differences do in these different possibilities and different proposals and different drafts for how we describe what Thinky Feely Tank is. And maybe we can this one can be framed specifically in what do the differences within this apparatus do? And what effect does that what do the differences do to your desire?
Hmm. Mhm.
Like what do you feel desire for? Or where do you feel desire leading? When we're like when we're engaged with these differences.
Mhm. I can answer that a little bit. The differences do for me, well, they make me a little like anxious, or like I start like actually it's interesting. I'm like scripting or like writing a whole new no, a whole other description in my head now, like after this conversation. So that's interesting to the differences. Like if I guess the differences feel too great or something, even though they're not or something. So then I'm like, oh, but it also is like what I think is helping me fine tune what I think utility
Uh-huh.
takes, and then in terms of like what it does to my desire, like I finding myself going between like a binary basically of like being like wanting to like get it right, like get the like the one statement, like and then feeling like the fuck, like this is like why are we even trying to like make a statement? Like maybe there's like another way, maybe this, and then I keep thinking about like the examining the stick and using the stick at the same time, and I feel like doing that, like we're trying to like examine the stick and use it, and like Yeah, that's how I feel.
Thank you.
It's interesting. I'm thinking about how I'm not like sure that we are all talking about the same thing. Like the differences, and it's not the differences. Like the differences in some ways do point to the overlap, and like there is this like interaction between the differences that does, I think, is kind of generative of the thing, and it's this way where we might not all be talking about the same thing, but it might not matter. Like that, that we are, if, at least in principle, we are trying to look at the differences that matter, and I kind of think, I actually think that the public-private discussion is an interesting instance of like Entangler having a priority of publicness and feeling that threatened by other people's priorities and like and and wondering like if this is a deal breaker for anyone on either side. Um, like what was the rest of it to them? Um, and so like it is helpful to be pushing at the areas of difference, but at the same time, it's like it's not clear. Like so, sometimes I'm concerned. Like I like the practice of defining this description. And it's feeling more and more like we're gonna have uh all seven of these things, all eight of these things, including the snake, like as the description in a way. Um, and but that also even like I think the looking for the among them. I think we're asking about the effect that the differences do to my desire. It's like the more time we spend on the differences, the more I want to pull back toward the I want to identify the unity.
Mm,
I want to
mhm,
touch base on the unity at least.
Mhm.
mm, mhm,
And when we've as we've been talking about desire and form and observable phenomena and stuff, I've meant to ask like what are we where is this going? Like what part of is there specific text that we are fine tuning here? Like what it like what's the container that will hold the results of this diffraction?
For tonight, we don't have a container, and that's feeling uncomfortable to me. Um, where like
I I feel like my understanding has been that the container is a website for starters, right? Because you're trying to write a description to put on the website. Is that too naive?
Mm-mm.
So if we worked with all of these descriptions, I mean, of course, we could ask people to go back in and like maybe edit them or tweak them. But I was wondering if we could go back to our old friend Dolly and like insert these descriptions into Dolly and see what kind of images it generates, and then weave that into how it's displayed on the web, how each description is displayed on the web page. Like maybe the images can do more to enmesh, overlap, quilt, weave, crochet. The images can do something interactive that allows the each description to appear, and like somehow that would make um, an art piece of the web page that's a little bit symbolic of diffraction. Like working with AI, working with the image generation, working with I don't know how I guess it depends on Fawn's web skills, but I remember back when I used to use Flash years and years ago, you could roll over text and have an image pop up, right? Or have your text change colors. Um, so they're just little tricks that could make it a very beautiful interactive collage that incorporates imagery, AI, and all of these descriptions. Some, like maybe sometimes some of them are linked. Perhaps some of them appear simultaneously because they have the most in common. And then some of them appear individually because they're the most individualistic descriptions or outliers. So maybe if we could like print this out and circle the ones that have the most unity and make a little diagram. Um, that would be a base plate for Fawn. Am I making sense at all? I guess I'm just trying to imagine how we can retain a lot of this information and display it for the public in a compelling way sooner than later, since I think there has been a deadline to get some kind of description together. Am I wrong about that? And then maybe we get something up and then we just keep on diffracting about it indefinitely if we feel like it. You know,
Yeah.
we can always go in and change.
Yeah, sure. And I'm curious, Lamshift, what you're gonna say, but to respond to that, like I have like I'm like, oh, like it's funny because I have like the almost the opposite kind of feeling. God, like I want to scratch
Sure.
all of it just like write that we're making a diffraction apparatus, like go back to like the like almost like describing it or something. And because I don't have like a tie to any of, I mean, I personally don't have a tie to my description. Like I feel like no, I kind of like want to scrap it or something for me. But I'm all, and then also I also have a little bit of resistance of using like existing like Dolly or ChatGPT
Oh.
3. Just because I don't know if like if we are a diffraction apparatus that are attending to differences that matter, and that in our process of being a diffraction apparatus, we have the potential, or we are, we have a power, all of us do, of creating subjects and objects, right? Or like,
Mhm.
those I guess could be forms. Then we have to like attend to like who we are including in our relationships in the entanglement. So like for me, like using like like ChatGPT or Dolly, I'm not sure if I want to include that in our worlding or
Mm.
something because of all, because I don't, yeah, I just don't, for me, me personally wanting to make a distinction between that, but also I don't want to say like it's bad or anything, but
What
I
if
that's
we,
like my personal kind of like resistance to it. But I don't know. I don't
I
know. Also,
feel
like
like
lamps. Sorry.
not to be too precious about the material that we have generated, I guess I resist throwing it all out. And I see it more as an underlayment that could be kept at some level. Like maybe we could utilize the strike through, um, that's sometimes used philosophically or rhetorically when text is kept in, but a line is drawn through it. So in the background, what if we had some of this text with a line drawn through it and it was at like a 50% gradient, but then there was one dominant statement that was 100% black in a larger font? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, can the work we've done contribute to the visual field? Or do you really just want to see one tidy,
I'm like open.
yeah.
I'm open to it. It's interesting about like also that you're like talking about formalism because your approach seems to be like a formal one,
Hmm.
which is interesting because I think mine is like I want to understand the like what the fuck are we talking, like what is the thing.
Hmm.
But I think those
Oh.
things also need to happen simultaneously,
Mm-hmm.
like so I think like this is why we have the diffraction apparatus because we're each kind of like bringing our own kind of thing.
I
But
guess
also
I'm.
I also feel like Lamb if you wanted to do something and like we
Hmm.
are like totally like hijacking your thing.
I don't feel like I've been hijacked. I feel like um, I don't feel like I've been hijacked. Um, there is what Splash said, the desire to touch base on the unity. I think that's one of the things that's an effect that the differences are having on me now. And I think that that brings clarity to to what like this description does and like what's important about this is that um both like tonight, like talking with y'all and tonight and the desire for like feeling unity on like how we for me it's a feeling of unity on like um I can keep it simple at that. Tonight, like the feeling of oh, Splash went away.
Hmm.
The feeling of unity. I'm losing my train of thought.
Okay, you can take your time.
Yeah. Yeah. What ends up mattering is the feeling of like I think it's like the feeling of belonging in Thinky Feely Tank. Like the feeling of like that's what whenever I feel the need for or feel desire for touching base on Unity, it's like something to soothe or to like reaffirm like our me belonging in this space with y'all. And I don't know if that's something that was behind what Splash was saying too whenever they spoke to that desire, because there also are like I don't know what the practicality beyond that feeling is, but I know that feeling matters because it shapes how like I come into Thinky Feely Tank. Um, and it made me think that like with our description, um, there's something about like the feeling of like like the feeling of like security of like having a description that I know that I'm coming in here to be in the thinky feely tank that this description is describing, and that y'all are also coming into this to be in the thinky feely tank that this description is describing. That's huge. And then another thing is for people who haven't been in this thinky feely tank to like feel drawn in and join us, or to learn what we are and choose whether they want to join us too. Um, the discussion tonight has felt like that's what feels important to me. And I think the like I'm getting kind of I also get really over this question of like how we respond to the effects of difference, and like the like that's a really it's such a scary thing that I've noticed. I've like increasingly gotten like freaked out and shrunk away by it over the past 20 minutes um in our discussion. But
Mhm.
Since you just said that you've gotten freaked out and shrunk away, that's pretty strong, like bodily language. Should we check in, like do a breath or check in right now and kind of reset for the next 10 minutes? Like we used to do, like I've done before.
yeah,
Deep breaths sound good.
I'm gonna stop sharing for a second. Stop looking at the snake and all those words.
I know we're taking time off. But I just have this like repeating thought in my head being like, we're making diffraction apparatus, or we're trying to make diffraction apparatuses, or like a desire to like kind of want to go back to the broad definitions, and like being like, oh yeah, that is actually what we're trying to do. It's like we're literally trying to make a diffraction apparatus, as broad kind of describes it, and attending to the differences that matter, and attending to how we produce subjects and objects, and like, yeah.
Yeah, like feels it's like I regard it as like such a like the importance and the consequences of this exploration is like huge.
This particular exploration of like trying to
No, this exploration of like what like skillful diffraction apparatuses can observe and attend to.
mm, hmm like that's an important thing, or like that's
Mm-hmm. You were Entangler when you were saying that, were you saying that like as kind of a clear definition of what Thinky Feely Tank is? Is
yeah,
that what you were suggesting?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because isn't that what we're I feel like this is what we do. We do try to do this, you know? I think my like hesitation as was in the beginning when with my statement was like the emphasis on Barad, and then I don't know, I always have this like funny like script that like Barad's like, you don't understand my work or something, or being like,
Uh-huh.
it's not a diffraction apparatus or something. But then I'm like, really we are trying to do that. I really think that's what we're doing.
If the description of what is TFT is really specific and focused on us making diffraction apparatuses, does that um do you read that as describing our Bay Dreams and our Ripple tanks and our Thinky Feely tank drag conference?
Mm.
I think that
Oh,
this isn't me being doubtful. This is me wanting to hear you say more on that.
yeah. I think those are like, and then go back to what Gossamer was saying about the form and stuff like that. I think like we're the diffraction apparatus in which those things pass through, in order for us to like work them so that they can be outputted that in a responsible way, like in the ways that Veronica Harway talks about, like so we're like the apparatus in which those things pass through, in which we do like a deep kind of like, attending to, yeah, the subjects it would produce, the worlds it produces, but I do want the desire part to get, or the feely part, because since it is like a thinky feely tank, a way to like entangle Barad, because Barad never doesn't talk anything about feelings, that's like one
Hmm.
question I have for them. It's like, where do feelings fit in this, or emotions, so like somehow figuring a way to entangle this with like Audre Lorde or something, like
Hmm.
or like stuff that Natalie Lovelace talks about, or Adrienne Marie Brown, or like I don't know, like many other kind of like people who are kind of like center love, or like desire, or eros,
What
um
one of the
and somatic
things,
stuff too, and somatics.
yeah, one of the and somatics too, one of the things that that one of the effects of that the differences regarding accessibility and inaccessibility is like if I am uh if we have a description that's about describing what TFT is as a diffraction apparatus, or as creating diffraction apparatuses in desire of something, or desiring something, and that second that something, that blank of what we're desiring, could be a bit of a description of what a diffraction apparatus is. Like there's a way that our definition of what Thinky Feely Tank is, if this is a direction that we go in, of like really focusing on diffraction apparatuses, that our description of what Thinky Feely Tank is can be like a can kind of do some what's the word, like kind of teach people what the term diffraction apparatus. I just think about like the tightness, a very appealing like tightness and strength of a sentence that uses the term diffraction apparatus, and then also has a phrase that's saying what diffraction apparatuses do, which is what we do. And so when somebody reads this, even though they might need to look up diffraction apparatus to know what diffraction apparatus is, they then read the definition and there's this tightness of, oh, the description of what a diffraction apparatus is what Thinky Tank is doing. That something about that feels like nice, maybe not quite accessible, but like a successful a successful like educational sentence about both Thinky Tank and diffraction apparatuses, which makes sense if like what we really care about or something is like this concept of a diffraction apparatus and like building a diffraction apparatus and building those. I don't know if that made any sense.
Yes. Yeah, it totally made sense. And maybe also think about like going back to Gossamer and like using visual components to it.
Yeah.
I it's like I'm thinking like we like I think the to understand like the diffraction apparatus is that like if you are part of if you enter into the Thinky Tank, you become one of the holes or like
Yeah.
the things in which like waves go through. So like
Yeah.
right now, three pillars,
Yeah.
Gossamer and Big so we form the diffraction apparatus. So I started thinking about like Gossamer's like visual, like having a visual aid or something, being
Yeah.
like, like if you could enter the thing, you become one of these things, and
Yeah.
together we form this diffraction apparatus in which like these projects or ideas pass through. And
Yeah.
so this is, something like that, which to me seems more accessible or like easier to
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah. Me
Yeah.
too.
Mhm.
That's really appealing to me.
Yeah, I'm feeling much better.
Me too.
Like there was like unity. Too bad Splash was in here. I don't know if you
I
saw the
know.
message. The internet went out,
Oh,
and they
Splash.
texted saying that they don't think their internet's going to come back on.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm curious. Like, yeah, I feel better. I don't know.
Me too.
How about you, Gossamer?
I didn't go to such a dark place, I feel like. So I feel as okay as I did 10 minutes ago. I did kind of go to a dark place when I got worried about how Land Shift was doing. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm glad you feel better. That makes me feel good. And
Yeah.
I like this metaphor you just used of entering the space being like becoming the hole in a diffractive apparatus.
I
I
think that
feel
might be
like
a good.
that's accessible. It
Yeah.
accessible yet still abstract.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Yeah, it's making me think. Oh, it's time also, but like it's like a similar conversation that we have in like I'm like the chair of the faculty development committee at school, and we have to review sabbatical applications. But there's like usually there's around 8 applicants, and there's only space for three, and so like the people are always like, how do you make the decisions? Or people who get rejected are like, what And so we got together and we're like, what's the criteria? And then we realized like we can't come up with a criteria because it's entirely relational, dependent on the applicants and
Oh,
then the configuration of the people in the committee, like, so we can't really say like, oh, this will get you in, or we're going to look at this because it's entirely in relation to the other applicants or something. So yeah, so similarly, like emphasizing that, like that it's a really relational and it's dependent on the configuration of the people, as well as like the whatever's coming in and attending to those kind of like specificities and
yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Because that's so true. Tank is so different based on the different arrangements of
Mm-hmm.
like how Tank is when I'm here and how it's when I'm not here, and how Tank is when someone else is here, when someone else isn't here, or like whenever a new person joins, it's so different.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. And that's the challenge that we have to do is like when new people, like how to
Mm-hmm.
I just keep thinking of that one person who came and totally did not.
I know I wasn't there for that, but I remember y'all talking about
It was horrible.
it.
Cool.
Shall we close?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Thank y'all. I appreciate the being able to come out of the like really self-critical, also low, dark feeling mind space with y'all and in response to both of you, how you held the conversation, did the conversation.
Yeah. Same. Same. Okay, wait, before we end, what's
Mhm.
happening next, TFT? Are we continuing? Yeah. I have a
Um,
better idea. I want to come in with
yeah,
something. Yeah. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. Could next TFT be like no longer maybe next TFT is making a definition, um, not doing diffraction apparatus mode,
Mm.
um, and in Taylor, did you say that maybe coming in with you might come in with something like a propose or like a draft or a proposition for what our description is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. And if anyone else wants to, I mean, not to repeat the whole process. I mean, that's fine too. But I just like this conversation kind of like made me like, I don't know, rearrange and like, yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. That's cool with me. If I have any ideas, I'll come in just to contribute as a conversation, but also knowing that you might have something more concrete.
Yeah, hopefully. And anyone else too, you know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Cool. Thank you, Lampshire, for facilitating and like
Yes, you're priceless, Lamb Shift. And I'm really happy that you did come here to facilitate, and I apologize if I stressed you out.
No, it's okay. I felt really stressed out, but that's not your fault. I Facilitating gets really stressful for me sometimes.
and it's a stressful activity. I
It's
mean,
a
like
stressful
this is a
activity.
really hard thing that we're trying
Yeah,
to do. Really hard.
yeah.
Yeah, you're at the vanguard of something. So,
Alrighty.
Um, okay.
Wish we could catch.
Well,
You're right, Milovi. We're here. Okay.
okay. Gossamer, can you prompt us when to do this?
to detach,
Yeah.
do I need to say something uh, prescribed?
Nope.
No. We
Whatever you want.
now conclude this diffractive session of Thinky Feely Tank on March 5th, 2024. Detach.
Okay. Cool.
Alrighty.
Thank you. I'll see y'all. I'll see y'all later.
Bye.